What is going on, YouTube? Today what we'll be talking about are the new units that were announced and some leaks and just a bunch of changes that are coming to the game. Stay tuned, let's get into it. Alright guys, so I just want to remind you guys to have a look at the giveaway. It's on your screen right here. All the information is there. Make sure that you're listening throughout the whole video for the 2 questions I'll be asking you to post down into the comments so you can take part into this giveaway. But without further ado, let's get right into this leaked material here that we have. So the first thing we're going to look at is this little magazine screenshot here. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the direction that they're going with new units. A lot of anti-other teams, and I kind of want to make the point about what an issue that creates when they try to make teams rock, paper, scissors. And I mean, we already have the RNG of Rising Rush, which you know that I hate. I think that it should be removed from the game and or just reworked. Yes, there are ways to kind of guess what your opponent's going to pick, but most of it is just RNG. And if teams start to rely on RNG, you know, androids start to rely on fighting, you know, avoiding the regen team forever. You know, Saiyans are trying to avoid the Frieza Force, and you know, I don't like that kind of you know, hoping. I think it encourages people just disconnecting more. But anyways, looking at the actual material we've got here, so the first thing we'll see is Chilled and the Frieza Force on the left hand side of that little picture here. Now apparently this is going to be a defensive unit, kind of a tanky kind of unit in Lord Chilled here. If we look at the description here in English, basically the higher his health is above the enemies, he'll get a power up. So if he has more health than his enemy, he gets a power up. He also reduces damage taken from Super Saiyans. His super attack is the Death Ball, which deals explode damage, and his recommended party is the Frieza Force, that is built around the blue type. Now that blue type, I'm assuming, is talking about Zarbon and the whole Vanish spam. Getting buffs to the, I believe, blast damage is what Zarbon buffs. I'm pretty sure the Dora was strike. So looking at this team, I mean, let's make this the first question that I asked in the comments. Do you think that the Frieza Force will actually become that 5th meta team? I personally don't think that this is going to work. I think that you are nerfing yourself trying to bring extreme units. I think that they won't be buffing, for example, Frieza and so on, enough to make them relevant. I think that the whole anti-Super Saiyan gimmick is going to just remain that, a gimmick. I don't know. I'm having trouble kind of wrapping my head around their decisions recently. I'm starting to sound like Goku almost on this channel. You know, I always try to stay positive about the game, but this really just feels like filler. It feels like they're trying to get to something and they're trying to buy time, or they're trying to raise money for it, or I don't even know. But this may actually be a banner that I don't summon on. I don't know, I'll have to see once it's actually released what it looks like. Maybe it'll be great, but I probably won't be summoning on it the first day. I'll probably give it a solid evaluation, try to find some and fight against them, just to see, you know, how it feels. Bardock, on the other hand, on your right hand side of the screen, that's a bit of a different story because he's clearly being based off of an attack type. Basically, I'm making these decisions off of, you know, whether they're defensive or offensive based on the little wheel that you have down there. But basically, Bardock will be a red unit. Now, the fact that he's going to be an offensive red unit, here's my concern. We already have Gogeta as a red unit, you'll say, but does that really mean anything? Because here's the thing. If you have 2 red units, and blue units are very uncommon, they're not very desirable. Blue 18 is the exception, as well as Kamikolo, I guess. But, I mean, then you can just run them both with Bardock, who is a green unit, and you have kind of a replica of what we used to have with double green yellow. Just that now you have extremely powerful units backed by the whole utility factor, whereas before you had 1 very strong unit backed by 2 utility. Now you have 2 strong ones backed by 1 utility, and we all know how good Bardock is. So now I'm not sure, guys. I think that this is going to start a new meta that will be all kinds of difficult to deal with. You know, they're talking about how you're supposed to be running the Frieza Force revolving around the blue type. I think that they see this coming, and they're saying, hey, get your blue units up, because you're probably going to see some double red on the Saiyan team coming up, right? I'm kind of having trouble with this entire page right now, if you can't tell. Looking at the actual buffs that they've announced, though, this is the Frieza page here off of Twitter. So telekinesis now has longer effective range. I mean, fine. If we're talking about individual units, right? It's different from a whole team perspective. That was kind of a team perspective look, whereas now we're looking at individual looks, right? So telekinesis was kind of before, because people would just hold you off at max range, wait for you to charge forward, either hit you with an attack, or they just dash backward, and you end up whiffing it, and then just get creamed. There's a reason why these are bottom 5 units. So if you haven't seen the update changes, basically they're taking the bottom 5 extreme and sparking units, and they're giving them buffs to try and make them more relevant. So now his anti-Saiyan attacks also power up superbly with his ability boosted, blah blah blah. So essentially they're trying to make the Frieza Force team an anti-Saiyan team, but they're consisting of very old units that are getting a mild buff. Meh. We'll see how good this makes Frieza. I hope he ends up being good, because I know a lot of people really like Frieza, but I feel as though his supporting team just won't be enough, similar to how hybrids have individually strong units but don't have a team to kind of be able to handle the situations that actual synergistic teams will put in front of them. So I don't know, we'll see how this works out. The rest of these units, though, I am very disappointed. I think that they are trying things, right? So I mentioned this about Blue 18. They are trying things. They're trying to make the game a bit more fleshed out. They're trying to get the color wheels going. They're trying to make the different types of units counter new units and stuff like that. But I mean, if we start off here with Captain Ginyu, I don't think that anybody's going to use Captain Ginyu, and I say this because you need to have 5 stars on him, so new players, forget about it. Old players who may have spam rolled on the Masters Pack banner, yes, you probably have 5-star Ginyu, but again, is this going to be worthwhile? Because then you can't really use Zarbon and Dodoria to buff your Friezas. So you would have Final Form Frieza, you would have Lord Chilled, and then Ginyu. Now, you're losing huge buffs from using Zarbon, for example. So what do you then do, right? And all he would really be doing is adding a Z ability for the Frieza Force, and they buffed his body change, which is cool. It's kind of a hilarious thing to do, right? But I think he's just going to be benched. If you do have 5 stars, you just put him on the bench, let him buff the team, whatever. Next one being Tien. Again, an extreme unit getting buffed. You need to have 5 stars on him. I mean, extreme units are a bit easier to 5-star, right? I think most people, even newer players, I mean, I've only been playing for, what, 2 months? And not even 2 months, actually. I haven't even hit 60 days yet. But he will probably still be 5 stars, and he'll just be increasing the yellow characters' base strike, attack, and defense even further. Nobody plays the yellow team. Just forget about it. The only mono team worth running is blue, and even that is So, nope. Chao Zhu. Now, basically, they're buffing his self-destruct. Again, I don't like units that are based around dying. So, when you're kind of nerfing yourself with the thought in mind that, oh, I'm going to let this unit die, and that's how I'm going to win the game. No, it's a terrible way of seeing it, right? Speaking of units that are going to be needing death to be useful, Pycon. So, inflicts attribute downgrades to all enemies when defeated. Again, he's going to be buffing Gogeta. That would be the only person you would run him with. But even then, right? Even if they buff his stats, right? So incredible status buffs. They, won't make him as good as Gogeta, for example. So that's number one. And even if they did, you have to remember that this isn't Dragon Ball Legends individual one-on-ones. This is a team-based game that has the Z ability synergy meshed into how your stats are increased. Now, if you bring Pycon on, great. He will at 5 stars now, which I think most people have 5 stars from rolling on the Gogeta banner. But the episode sagas from the movies will be buffed. Okay, he will buff Gogeta. That's fine, but that's not enough to warrant him actually being on the team, because even if they did make him as strong as Gogeta, Gogeta is much stronger than he is on paper because he's getting all these Z abilities. So when you're getting 25% to strike and blast, to defenses, to all this stuff, and he's getting none of it, his stats, regardless of how good they look on his stat sheet, will never actually be as good as other units. Extreme units getting Z ability buffs will be better than he is. So again, you're bringing a useless unit, trying to kill him off in order to inflict attribute downgrades to all enemies when defeated. I mean, at that point you're down to Vanish, so it doesn't really matter if they're doing a little bit less damage. If they can keep you locked up, I mean, you're at a disadvantage no matter what. So I still don't think this is enough to bring Pycon in. And the fact that the Otherworld tag is being thoroughly ignored, then you can kiss goodbye to Gogeta, Pycon, Janemba, whatever else they would have added, Dabura, Majin Buu maybe. That kind of full color wheel. Gotenks could have been the purple along with Janemba. I don't know. There was something to do with the Otherworld tag. You guys know how disappointed I am about that. But again, they're ignoring it, and these little micro buffs are not going to change anything at all in the game. This is straight filler. The next one is our one-handed Spirit Bomb Goku. Just gonna skim over this one and the next one because basically they're buffing purple units. So again, mono purple, forget about it. And the one-handed Spirit Bomb being used with more freedom. I personally don't think it's going to matter, and I don't think, I mean, I've never even seen anyone use this unit ever, so I don't even know what it looks like. I don't think anyone's going to be using it. They don't seem to be buffing anything team-wise, so I think it's going to be a waste, especially when he would fit on a Saiyan team. If we're talking about real teams, you're not going to bring him. It's just not going to happen. So next one is Mercenary Towel. Again, a purple unit buffing purple teams. Meh. Again, status buffs, Z ability upgrade at 5 stars, and he's just going to add crit and max health even further. So I mean, guys, I think that for the most part, what they're trying to do is, I think that they have something in mind later, and they're either trying to raise money for it or they're trying to buy time. I think they're seeing all the hate in the comments and they're trying to address it, and they're taking a really bad road to get there. And I try to stay positive on this channel, and I try to focus on the end result, right? Where they're trying to go, because it's still early in the game. What are we waiting for in the future? Will this be a great game in the future? It has the potential to be, but the roads that they're taking to get there so far have been very good and very bad all at the same time. So with that in mind, guys, here are your 2 questions to put down in the comments below. First question, I want to know how you think Bardock is going to turn out, the Super Saiyan Bardock. Do you think that this is going to be another, bring or just don't run Saiyan's team? You need Bardock to run the Saiyan team basically at this point. You think you're going to have this unit, or is he just going to be filler and Gogeta is just going to eclipse him and nobody's going to be running double red? Second question is, do you think that these changes to old units, the extreme units, the Frieza, the Ginyu, the Frieza Force, all that good stuff, do you think this is going to actually change the meta? And by change the meta, I mean, do you think that the Frieza Force will actually be a 5th competitive team, I guess you could say? I don't personally think the hybrids are competitive, just because that's another point about the whole Lord Chilled and stuff like that. The win more type of unit. Hybrids have that win more mentality, and it is not working for them. Anyways, let me know in the comments what you guys think. Make sure that you are subscribed if you want to be part of this giveaway, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.